In 12.4 we have new types of segments to talk about, and that's going to get us new ways to find some angle measurements and segment lengths. So those types of segments, or could be a line also, is a secant, and that's going to intersect a circle at 2 points. So AB in this example would be a secant ray, and AB would be a secant segment if I stop from A to B. And again, if I have the whole line, line AB would be a secant line. So a chord is also part of a secant. That's just the part that starts and stops on your circle. So with our new rule, using our secants, we have a formula to use, which is that the measure of an angle formed by two lines that intersect inside a circle is half the sum of the measures of the intercepted arcs. So if I have two secant lines drawn in here and here, at their intersection, this angle 1 that's formed would be half the sum of the arcs x and y added together. So we see that rule, the measure of that angle we're looking for is half the sum of those two intercepted arcs. You could have different sorts of intersections though. So the measure of an angle formed by two lines that intersect outside a circle is half the difference of the measures of the intercepted arcs. So again, I have two secants drawn, two secants, or I could even have a secant and a tangent line, or even two tangent lines. As long as they're intersecting outside the circle, they intercept two arcs. So I'll have an outer arc and an inner arc. And again, outer, inner, outer, inner. And the rule for that is that if I'm trying to find that angle outside of your circle, that angle measure is going to be half the difference of the outer arc minus the inner one. Another way of thinking that is it's always going to be a bigger arc minus a smaller one. So putting that rule into practice, or both of those rules into practice, if I'm trying to look for x in that first example, these lines are intersecting inside your circle. So to find the measure of that angle x, it's going to be half the sum of those two intercepted arcs. So if I add together 90 and 46 and divide that by 2, I should get 68 as that angle measure. Now that my lines intersect outside the circle, I have to remember that the angle measure outside the circle is half the difference of the bigger arc minus the smaller arc. So the way we're going to set that formula up, z is not equal, so z is not isolated in that formula. The angle outside is isolated, so 20 is equal to half the difference of the bigger arc minus your smaller arc. So that's 95 minus z. First thing you can do on this to get rid of the 1/2, just multiply both sides by 2. That way I get 40 equals 95 minus z. Subtract the 95 and divide out the negative. We get that arc measure z was 55. So another case in part C where I have two lines that intersect outside my circle. Same rule. The angle outside is 70, so that's equal to half the difference of your bigger arc minus your smaller arc. So again, that angle outside, half the difference of bigger arc minus smaller arc. And same steps, multiply both sides by 2, I can get rid of my fraction. And if I add 110, we get that the bigger arc was 250. You can also check and see that if I do 250 plus 110, that should add up to 360, because I was looking at the entire circle. Same rule again in part D. So this time I'm looking for the angle outside your circle, and that would be again half the difference of bigger minus smaller. So if I take 110 minus 30 and get 80, half of that would be 40, which is my angle measure. And part E goes back to our first rule. Since our lines are intersecting inside the circle, our angle that's formed, which is 35, is going to be half the sum of those two intercepted arcs. So that's 30 and x put together. So if I put that into my formula, the angle is half the sum of the two arcs. I can just use the same steps, multiply by 2, that gets rid of the fraction. Subtract 30, we get that missing arc measure would be a 40. So you can also use this same rule in word problems. You'll see this kind of example relatively often, I guess, if you're going to use this rule, which is saying in this case that if I have a satellite that's looking at a portion of the Earth, the viewing angle is 17.5 degrees. That would be the angle that's formed at that satellite. And we want to find in this question the measure of the arc that's visible from the satellite. So basically what we're looking for is that closer arc measurement. And we're going to use that same rule from before. If I know the angle outside is 17.5 degrees, that's going to be half of the difference of the bigger arc minus your smaller arc. And we're trying to find this smaller arc, so we can call that x. And we're not given degrees for the bigger arc, but what we do know is that those two arcs should make up the entire circle. So if I just take 360 minus the arc that I'm trying to find, that's the expression we can use for the bigger arc. So again, x is the part we want to find. The rest of that circle we can just call 360 minus x. So same rule. the angle outside your circle is going to be half the difference of the bigger arc minus your smaller arc. In this case, the bigger arc is 360 minus x. So just with some algebra and doing our same steps, if I multiply by 2, I get 35. I can also simplify that to get 360 minus 2x. Subtract 360, divide by negative 2, and that should tell us that arc that's visible from the satellite is 162.5. And since there's a few different ways we can intersect the circle, we're going to add in a few different formulas we could see to solve for our missing variables. And we have 3 cases here that we've broken down ways that we could have either 2 secants intersecting, or again 2 secants outside your circle, and another case where I have a secant line and a tangent. So in our first case, if I'm looking for segment lengths, so these are not angles, but a distance from A and B and C and D, the rule that we can use for intersecting segments is that the products of the chord segments are going to be equal. So if I did A times B, that's the segments of one chord, that should be equal to C times D, which is the segment lengths of the other chord. Second case is the products of the secants and their outer segments are going to be equal. So if I look at the rule that we're using up here, that means that if I add W and X together, that's the entire secant length. If I multiply that times W, that's going to be equal to doing the same thing on the other secant. So again, that's W plus X, the whole segment times the outside part, is going to be equal to our other whole segment, Y plus Z, times its outside part, which is just Y. So third case also, I could have a secant and a tangent, which is similar to the second case, but slightly different. The product of a secant and its outer segments equals the square of that tangent. So same thing, if I do the whole secant times the outside part, so Y plus Z times the outside part Y. In this case, since I don't have 2 parts, that's just going to be equal to the tangent segment squared. So that would be T squared. Let's do this with some practice because I think it's easier to break down once we see some numbers. So our first practice problem is an example of our second case where I have 2 secant segments. And the rule for that, again, is if I take the whole secant length times the outside part of it, that should be equal to the whole other secant length times the outside part. And we're going to use that to find y. So applying that rule, if I add together 6 plus 8, that's the entire secant, times the outside would be times 6. So 6 plus 8 times 6. Applying that rule to the other segment, I use 7 plus y for the whole length. If I multiply its outside part, that would be times 7. So whole times outside equals whole times outside. And from there, it's just algebra. So if I add together 6 and 8, I get 14. And if I multiply by 6, I get 84. I can also distribute on the right-hand side, so I get 49 plus 7y. And from there, I'm subtracting 49, divided by 7, we get that y would be 5. Our second practice problem is the example from our third case, where I have a secant and a tangent. In that case, I'm taking the whole segment, so 8 and 16 combined, times its outside part will be equal to the square of the tangent. So that's 8 plus 16 times 8 equals z squared. And we're just using that rule to help solve for z. So from here again, I add together to get 24 as the entire length of that secant, times its outside part would give us 192. And again, since I just have z squared on the right, I can solve for z by taking a square root, which on this one should come out to about 13.9. And there's 2 more practice questions on the back, and our part C is again using the rule where I have 2 segments, or sorry, not 2 segments, 2 secants, and I'm trying to find the length of x. So kind of like part B that we did from the last page. And if I add together that entire length, I'm going to add together the whole segment times the outside portion, and again, that should be the same as the whole second secant times that outside portion. So 14 plus 20, if I multiply that times 14, should be the same as 16 plus x multiplied by 16. And all I'm going to have to do is simplify that. So 14 plus 20 means the entire secant length was 34. So 34 times 14 is going to be one of our segments. And then 16 times that sum, again, I'm just going to distribute. So 16 times 16 is 256. And then if I distribute, I get 16x. And using some algebra, subtract 256, divide by 16. X should come out to about 13.75. And for our last question, this is using our first case again. If I have my segments inside that circle, that just means that the chord segments are going to be equal. Their products will be equal. So 3 times 7 is going to be equal to 6.5 times m. So if I multiply 3 times 7, I get 21. and 6.5m is just going to be simplified on the right. Taking one step to divide 21 by 6.5, I get about 3.2 for m. So make sure we have some practice with these rules down, and we'll see if we can improve on that in class.